Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Josh Poet with your First Contact Radio. So we made it through the weekend. There was a lot going on, and maybe a lot more happened than you might have realized. I know a lot of people were focused on a particular thing happening with the rapture, and things did not go necessarily the way that they thought it would. But it doesn't necessarily mean that there weren't other things taking place that were also involved with that scenario. So we're going to talk about those things as well as some of the other Earth events that have been taking place, because we still are in one of those times where we need to pay attention. Last week I made a list and I put it up kind of like a grid so we could look at, not a grid, but just a list of what was going on, and I pointed out 5 different things. A little brief of this list here. We're going to go over that in just a bit, show you what happened, where we're at, how we're progressing. So we'll get to that momentarily, but in the meantime, let's jump to the dream spell for today. Today, our dream spell is the white resonant dog guided by the wind. The white resonant dog guided by the wind. White is the color of refinement, resonant tone. It's number 7. It's called the resonant tone of attunement. And then the dog is the 10th symbol, all about love and loyalty. And the guide for today is the wind, which is all about inspiration. The phrase, I channel in order to love, inspiring loyalty. I seal the process of heart with the resonant tone of attunement. I am guided by the power of spirit. I am a galactic activation portal. Enter me. On the Gregorian calendar, it is Monday, May 23rd, 2011. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to jump to the cosmic news at this point in time with Dirk Bradshaw when we get back, UFO news, and then we're going to get into discussing the events of the weekend. All right, Dirk, over to you.
The Cosmic News with Dirk Bradshaw.
Tonight's Cosmic News is powered by thegeniusclubonline.com. Why be ordinary when you can be a genius? That's thegeniusclubonline.com. Check them out. Flying high above the planet Earth, this is the Cosmic News with Dirk Bradshaw. Brought to you by CosmicNewsNetwork.com. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's time for the greatest show on Earth, the Cosmic News with Dirk Bradshaw. I am Dirk Bradshaw, and tonight we investigate the Denver International Airport conspiracy. On the surface, Denver International Airport seems like any other modern airport. It's new, it's clean, it's big, and yes, of course, it's modern. But some investigators have found more to it than meets the eye. Much, much more. Claims abound that Denver International Airport was designed and built by the Illuminati to use as the headquarters for the global genocide that will later trigger the New World Order. Tonight, the Cosmic News investigates the Denver International Airport conspiracy.
Any traveler to Denver Airport, Colorado, is in for a scary experience. This airport has been the subject of many questions due to the unexplainable symbols, images, and stories that have surfaced. Denver Airport was built in 1995 on a span of 53 square miles. Even though Denver already had a functioning airport, a new one was decidedly built. This new airport had less runways and absolutely no new technological advancement. The only thing that this new airport has that the old one didn't is a strangely large amount of space. When looking at an aerial shot of the new airport, the layout has shocked many. Denver Airport's runways have been situated in such a way that resembles a Nazi swastika. Not only has the shape of Denver Airport been called to question, but also what is located inside. But who is in charge of all the weird nuances at this airport? The general consensus is that it is the New World Order. But who are the New World Order? Well, they are an elite group of individuals that include many of the world's wealthiest people, such as well-known political leaders and those related to the British Crown. But their main goal is to create one united world government that has no regional boundaries. But this would only be possible in one way, and that is to commit a mass genocide and narrow down the world's population to 2 billion people. Their reasoning for this thought is because there would be more control. Denver Airport has a myriad of symbols that are correlated to the New World Order. There is a dedication stone in the airport that mentions the New World Airport Commission. However, there is no such thing. The New World Airport Commission is made up and was never created. One can only assume that it is alluding to the New World Order. Also, there is a plate on the floor that shows the symbols AUAG. Some may say that this is related to gold and silver. However, one of the sponsors of the airport discovered a new deadly strain of hepatitis known as Australian antigen, and this is also symbolized by AUAG. What is scary is that this symbol is located right in front of a mural on a wall that is about genocide. But let's talk more about the murals in Denver Airport. The murals located in the airport are the most notable features of this airport. The main mural stretches over 4 walls and was painted by Chicano artist Leo Tanguma, who was in fact Mayan. The first mural here shows 3 dead women, an African, a Native American, and a young Jewish girl. In the background, we can see the destruction of a city and a forest. This attempts to show the destruction of the world. Another notable part of this mural is the fact that there is a little girl carrying a Mayan tablet. This alludes to the Mayan date of December 21st, 2012. This is when the Mayans predict that the world is going to go through a rebirth phase. The main emphasis of this mural, once again, is the destruction of the world and the preservation of some life. The second mural shows a huge military figure wearing a gas mask and holding a machine gun and a sword. This sword is stabbing a dove, which is the symbol for peace, and implies that peace will be destroyed. There are grayish waves emanating from the figure, and these waves represent death, or in this case, a poisonous gas that has killed everyone in its path. This mural is the one with the AUAG symbol, the one that is related to the deadly virus strain. One can also see a line of weeping women holding their dead infants, and a group of dead children on a pile of bricks. The emphasis of this mural is of a cleansing that is going to kill a myriad of people in its path. However, interestingly enough, this mural has been painted over. The third mural shows all of the children of the world taking their weapons from each country and giving them to a German boy, who is then molding them into something else. All the children of this scene are of different ethnicity, and all seem to be relieved. The gas mask man in the previous mural is seen dead, and there are 2 doves perched on his body. The main emphasis of this mural is to show the return of peace after all the killings have taken place, and that there will be no more need for weapons in this perfect world. The final mural has a Jesus-like figure in the middle, who is holding a plant which symbolizes rebirth. all of the people are running towards this man with happy expressions. Animals are freely roaming, and everything seems to be in perfect harmony. This final mural alludes to a new Garden of Eden, where the world is perfect size, and everything could work together in peace after the genocide that has taken place. All in all, these murals, when put together, represent the formation of a new world filled with fewer people, and this is also the goal of the New World Order, which has been seen represented throughout various parts of the airport. The symbology of the airport can still be debated, but one thing that cannot be questioned is the fact that there has been a lot of mysterious construction work underneath Denver Airport. When first constructing the airport, there were originally 5 buildings, but out of the blue, the builders were ordered to bury the buildings underground because they were supposedly built wrong. Normally, a building that is built wrong would be demolished, but in this case it was not. This allowed for an underground base to be created, but there are still workers who are sent to work in these underground bases periodically. But when they are questioned about the nature of their work, they all refuse to comment. These underground bases have been going under more construction and now have underground tunnels that connect all the buildings together. According to a contractor, these tunnels have a strange sprinkler system that was added onto the roofs of the tunnel. But this sprinkler system has no valid use, as these tunnels are concrete and underground. If relating these sprinkler systems back to the sign of AUAG in front of the mural regarding genocide, then one must begin to wonder what the use of a sprinkler in a concrete tunnel 150 feet below the ground would be. These underground bases appear to be holding rooms due to the sheer mass and size, and some say that they even allude to concentration camps. This is because 1. These holding rooms have no purpose, and when the airport authorities were questioned, they say that they are merely being used for storage. And 2, all the barbed wire fences face the inside of the airport rather than facing the outside, which is what they usually do. This implies that they are trying to keep things in rather than keep things out. And 3, the sprinkler systems have no use, but they may be related to the deadly virus Australian antigen and the pursuits of the New World Order. People have attempted to argue that the underground bases are being used for storage, but one fact must be questioned, and that is, why is the underground base 88.5 square miles long? And why were the 5 buildings mysteriously buried? No airport has or needs that much storage room. So what is this space really being used for? Whenever the authorities are questioned, they are not allowed to answer. We are not the only ones who seem to be fascinated with this airport. The Queen of England, alongside many other famous European royalty and politicians, are hurriedly buying property close to the airport under an alias. One can only assume that they must feel that there is something significant about this airport in order to do so. It is very easy to dismiss a conspiracy theory, but it is not hard to dismiss cold, hard facts that surround them. The odd happenings in this airport have been called to questions, but all the questions have been dismissed and have not been answered. Is the New World Order really going to attempt to take over? And if they are, does that mean that our own government is involved? Research nowadays can only do so much. Now, only time will tell.
Oh, man, I can't believe it's over. Where does the time go? Well, I see the fat lady's off the stage. She's looking right at me. It's time for me to go put her to bed. I hate goodbyes. So instead I'm going to say, until we meet again, I'm Dirk Bradshaw for the Cosmic News. Wake up.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of people.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw a UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing. What they're losing from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What would our founding fathers say if they were alive today? Must be turning in their graves. Redcoats are coming, Big Brother's watching. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. One if by land and two if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is Josh Poet, and this is the UFO News for today. All right, let's start things off. We got a couple of stories here. We're going to start the first one off with mass UFO sighting of UFO fleet over Tokyo. It said the following video was shot in Kicha, Shinjuku, Tokyo. It shows what appears to be multiple UFOs gliding above the skies of Tokyo. What's interesting is that this was a mass UFO sighting. Many residents all saw these multicolored objects as they changed formations and seemed to fly at very fast speed. I'm all for the theory that these could be weather balloons or lanterns in this video. The UFO appears to change colors and move strange formations at an incredible speed. Alright, let's take a look at this here. Alright, we got two up in the sky there flying next to each other. And a crying baby and a lady very excited. Alright. Well, this video, this story, I think we talked a little bit about this last week. You can find us at our UFO News link. Just go to firstcontactradio.com. Now, let's move over to this story here. Here's a question. I thought I'd bring these up because I saw a couple of these today and thought I'd... This one says, what if aliens attacked? And that's a good question because there seems to be a lot of concern about that. The Hollywood movies that are out are about aliens attacking. Seems to be on people's mind. Concerned that that is what is going on. This one is from the Standard.net. Standard.net says this is Luane Lee McClatchy. Pasadena, California. What if there really are little green men out there in the vast universe who plan to plop their UFO in a cornfield in Nebraska? That's not just a question for science fiction writers and 10-year-old boys, but for some real scientists with alphabets after their names. It's my day job, of course, to look at them, says Dr. Seth Shostak, senior astronomer for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and I can assure you that I wouldn't do that if I didn't think there was a good chance for success because, well, it's not that lucrative. Shostak and several other scientists are taking the matter seriously when the National Geographic Channel presents When Aliens Attack, premiering tonight. And of course, you can count on the National Geographic Channel for telling you the exact truth, because that's what they always don't do. Just a little disclaimer in there from me to you. NASA has a Kepler satellite orbiting the Earth right now. Within 600 days, you will know what fraction of the stars have planets and are somewhat like the Earth. And the expectation is that number will come out between 10 and 50 billion in our galaxy, says Shostak. If you don't like our galaxy, there are 200 billion other galaxies we can see, and there's a vast amount of the universe we cannot see. So it comes down to this. If you say, no, I don't think there are any aliens out there, then you believe in miracles, because you would be the miracle. The miracle is not that they would be there. The miracle is that they didn't exist. Whether they are here, a third of the population believes that they are walking the streets, abducting you for experiments your mom wouldn't approve of, and a few scientists believe that. So why are the aliens always on the attack instead of being ambassadors of goodwill? Shostak says it stands to reason, as Homo sapiens always react to strangers with aggressions. If you look historically at what's happened here on Earth, the natives of America do not meet our average Spaniard selling fish on the street. They met the aggressive guys. So there's a very strong filter. If they come down, they're probably aggressive. That's not a faulty assumption, I think. Well, John Ringo, who has written 5 bestsellers on the topic of alien invasion, says that we should screw our courage to our sticking point, just in case. One of the aspects is even when people come in peace with the best intentions, it has a tendency to damage or destroy cultures. So being prepared for this type of thing, there is no reason not to be prepared for a situation. Getting really upset about it, despite the fact that I'd write in the field, I would suggest that you worry about the sky falling. Wouldn't suggest about the sky falling today. What we would hope is that the good guys show up first, and that would be really nice. But the point of this wasn't to debate whether they are or aren't. It's what happens if they do. Do we have a plan? What type of plan should we put together? How would we defend the planet? Taylor has also written the handbook for Harrying Aliens, an Introduction to Planetary Defense. You can read more about this story, firstcontactradio.com. But, you know, over time, there's been plenty of opportunities for aliens to attack Earth. Earth's been down and out a number of times, yet they haven't done so. They have not done so. They're not going to, not in my opinion. The only place they seem to be attacking is in Hollywood, and the mentality of Earthlings to want to attack first and ask questions later. We can see over and over the times where Americans, where other members of this global world here are shooting at spaceships in the sky, unknown objects. The objects aren't shooting back, but they shoot at it. That's a problem. Maybe we should just not shoot at the unidentified flying objects, just in case they're not going to attack and just in case they want to help. Would you help if you were being shot at every time you showed up into a neighborhood to bring some sort of help? Probably not. Now here's another one, takes a little further, says, well, what would it be like under alien rule? Well, now that Osama bin Laden is history, and has been for a number of years, we can relax until the Euphorians find us. Euphorians are space aliens from the planet Euphoria. They're probably looking at Earth as a possible haven for huddled masses yearning to breathe free. They travel in UFOs. We don't know where Euphoria is, but the folks who keep up with the Kepler aircraft tell us that there may be 50 billion planets in our galaxy. With that, many worlds spinning around, at least one of them must be named Euphoria. For any of you who have followed UFOetry, you would understand and know that we do have one of our flight attendants on the spaceship. Her name is Euphoria. Now, I don't recall a planet called Euphoria out there, but there are beings that have that name. Case in point, one of our flight attendants. Now, Stephen Hawking, the British physicist, who may be the smartest man on our planet, well, until some of his dumb comments he's made lately, has warned us not to establish contact with creatures from out of space. Case in point. The space aliens may be smarter than we, he said, and if we find them, they may do our civilization what the Europeans did to the native inhabitants of America. But what if they've already found us, Steve? May I call you Steve, Dr. Hawking? Surely you know that Euphorians crashed a UFO Roswell back in 1947, and we have the pickled remains of UFO at the U.S. Air Force cannery to prove it. The prospect of landing in force by the Euphorians is a tad unsettling. What if they're not a bunch of villains like the Nazis and figure on becoming a master race with us as their slaves? What seems to be Steve's dread? And what if they're basically good guys whose brains compare to ours the way ours compares to cow brains? And I suppose they look at us the way the good people of Hardee's look at the pasture full of Angus? I prefer to think of Euphorians as civilized creatures who probably are vegans even better. Guys who get their energy from sipping petroleum, snorting natural gas, or sticking their fingers into light sockets. How would such a benign arrival view us humans? Well, probably the way Adam and Eve perceived the first prototype puppies as kittens, as cute little varmints, not much practical use, but valued nonetheless as lovable pets. Oh, I can see a pair of Euphorians observing the human foursome at play. Isn't it delightful the way they can amuse themselves for hours, playing with their sticks and their balls? Oh, look, my man Poncho just hit the ball and knocked it down that green corridor. Now watch how he follows the ball and recovers it. He loves it when it rolls that little ball by the hole by the flagpole. Well, there's more to this article. As you could see, it's quite silly, quite little silly poke at the old UFOs and what's going on out there. I don't think you need to really be worrying about aliens coming down and attacking your planet and taking over and ruling. If anything, there's the concern that the aliens are already here and in power, such as the reptilians. Look at David Icke's work. He talks a great deal about such things. The possibility that these reptilians do exist and have existed. There's a movie out there called They Live. It's all about that very subject. So check that one out. Here's one more, and this is going to tie into what I want to talk to in a little bit. This says the apocalypse really is happening, and the rapture went off without a hitch. Greg Layden's blog at scienceblog.com. Well, it's just a matter of calibration. Let me explain. One day I was driving along a suburban street with the sun low in the horizon and the windows covered in raindrops from a sudden sun shower moments earlier, insufficiently caffeinated and distracted by something. That's when I saw a large black dog transmorgify into a lawnmower. No, seriously, I really did see this. It reminded me of the time I saw a giant UFO over Boston Harbor. There's an article link here to the night I was almost abducted by aliens in Boston. What happened with the dog was this. The distraction was a set of children and other family members spilling over their front property line, doing something one another and potentially stepping on my contemplated path, the path I would follow after making a left turn, which in turn I would do either quickly to get ahead of the car coming straight in the opposite direction, or more slowly, letting the oncoming car go first. My scan of the busy pedestrian environment yielded sightings of 2 or so children on a curb in the street, an adult about to cross the street, someone about to get into a car across the street. All of this was on the street which I was about to left turn. A brown dog on the sidewalk, and what I thought for a moment to be a large black dog sitting at the very left edge of my peripheral vision in the shadow of the tree up by the house and the lawn. With all the activity going on, I stopped and waited to make a left. This allowed me to decipher the landscape more accurately. People living in a house where the front yard work was in progress had dropped their chores to greet someone who had pulled onto a parking spot across the street. Perhaps this person was delivering the donuts or something, because the yard work was abandoned with no sign of remorse. Oh, and that thing I thought was a dog was a lawnmower with a jacket thrown over the handle, which for a split second in the corner of one's distracted eye kind of looked like a big black dog sitting there. Had I lived in a culture in which we believed animals transform into or hide themselves as human man-made objects, and especially that there was such a great significance linked to catching such a transformation in the act, I might well have accepted that the dog transforming into the lawnmower was real. Indeed, even if we did not live in a culture with these criteria, if you see enough dogs transform into lawn grooming equipment and have no culturally meditated facility to question the legitimacy of observations, eventually, inevitably, you would build up a body of evidence suggesting and supporting such a belief system. And that's just the visual mistakes the eye and brain easily correct. If we throw a few individuals with delusional behavior and a few individuals prone to auditory hallucinations and a few prone to visual hallucinations, well, you get the full-blown mystical transformative religion of some kind. This means that any culture without a religion in the absence of an actively maintained rational belief system in science will become very likely a culture with a religion essentially, and pets will probably get involved, and there's a reason that dogs and cats are often deities. Well, this article goes on. It's a little bit longer than I talked about. But it goes on to talk about, let's see here. In fact, pay very close attention to this, especially in America. The country was founded by apocalypsers in part. The Puritans of the Mass Bay Colony were convinced that soon after building their city on the hill, the second coming and judgment day would occur. That is why they founded and settled new communities. They did not have a rapture concept. Rather, they had a concept of city that they would build as a demonstration of their faith and love for God, and so on and so forth. And having done this, would pass to heaven to the end of earthly days, etc. There were, of course, different versions of this, but the Puritans set dates just like Harold Camping did, and when dates arrived and nothing happened, they set new dates. Different groups of Puritans also set different geographical locations for their city on the hill, and some, when resetting the dates, also adjusted the location. One group of Mass Bay Puritans said to have moved to what is now New Mexico. New date in hand, one day after the failed then dates. Today the Puritans or Pilgrims are mostly mythical in American culture. Most of what we say we know about them is wrong, and their numerical influence was much smaller than supposed by many. But there were probably an influence in modern culture, including the fact that there were many medieval, more than average European, less tolerant and more unscientific than the average Renaissance adults of the day, and had this end-of-the-world thing going for them, or more accurately, not going. Many of those who were not raptured by elevating to heaven, leaving behind their smoking shoes, were, I promise you, raptured in some way or another. They'll explain to us this later. At the moment we are hearing very little, as though they normally loud, obnoxious voices were taken up into heaven, leaving their silent selves behind. But mark my words, we'll hear a post hoc explanation from some of them soon enough. In the meantime, we can enjoy the apocalypse as it unfolds in the pages of our newspapers daily for the next few months. Well, okay, good article, long article. Kind of gives you an idea of some things, but it doesn't really sum up the point that I want to make, which I will do momentarily. I'm going to jump to a quick song. When I get back, I see we have a caller on the line here I'll get to, and then I have some thoughts and comments on the whole situation. All right, this song here is called We Never Went to the Moon.
If all of this is true, and the evidence strongly suggests that it is, then our government, for some reason, has taken the stance that the general public must not be told the truth.
Very good, ready? Did we really go to the moon? Did we really land on the moon? And why weren't there any stars? Did we really go to the moon? Did we really land on the moon? And why weren't there any stars? Why weren't there any stars? July 20, 1969, 3 astronauts embarked on a historic mission to the moon. On Earth, millions of people gathered together to watch it live on TV. whole thing was a fake, that we didn't have the technology yet to accomplish this feat. And in haste to win the Cold War, created one of the greatest hoaxes of all time. Did we really go to the moon? Did we really land on the moon? Why weren't there any? Alright, we're going to cut that one short. You get the idea. Did we really go to the moon? Well, there's evidence that we didn't. Anyway, I wanted to come back in because we got things to talk about. And if you want to hear that song or see the video, just go online and you can find it. That's UFOetry.com. You can find that at YouTube/UFOetry and watch We Never Went to the Moon. Okay. Let me put this graphic back up for a minute here before we jump into any discussions or calls. Okay, 5 different things to pay attention to. First, we had Howard Camping and his May 21st rapture prediction. We had the FEMA NLE exercise, Comet Elenin, Transformers blowing up and concerns of UFOs attacking, and a false flag incident that will be blamed on Pakistan or China or something like that. So, where do we stand in all of this mix? Well, Howard Camping, what about him? You know, I don't know what a lot of people expected. I think that they were expecting they were just going to disappear out of their shoes and be gone off the planet. But it strikes me as very funny as I go through and I watch these videos. And the ironic part is when you watch these videos, you see these people looking at their watches. And then I'm still here as if they were going to go, assuming that they were going to be one of those that were going to be taken up along the way. I see a lot of those videos out there. People just assuming that, well, they didn't get taken, the rapture must have not happened. You know, I believe one of the things he said was 200 million people. Well, we have a world of 6 billion people. 200 million people out of 6 billion, it's a small drop in the bucket. Not a lot of people. So, not possible, if that number, 200 million, is a correct number, that every one of you that's out there believing that you were going to get raptured, we're going to get raptured. Now, let's move past that. Let's look at some of his other things he said. He said that it would start with an earthquake at 6 o'clock, would be the first one, and it would be in New Zealand. Well, there wasn't an earthquake at 6 o'clock in New Zealand, but shortly afterwards, there was a 6.1 earthquake in New Zealand. So, he got that right. A 6.1 earthquake in New Zealand. He said that would start things off. He said that this time period was a time when we were going to go through a lot of trials and tribulations, as we were going to have 5 months of basically hell on earth. Well, maybe no one got raptured because maybe God feels that everyone needs to be down here to go through this because there's too many beings that are not ready to be pulled off the planet yet. Maybe we need to see all the things that we've been involved with and created and the problems and still try to find a way to fix those. So maybe those of you who are throwing stones at Howard Camping, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should step back, take him out of the equation and see what the spiritual significance behind this is. Because not only was there an earthquake in New Zealand on that day, but a large volcano in Iceland exploded. Just shortly before that, Obama is wanting to give away and recreate the line back to 1967 that would take all of Jerusalem and divide that. This is a person who has been pointed out as possibly being the Antichrist due to the translation of the words of Jesus, seeing Satan as lightning from the heights. Now, we had tornadoes last night that took place, and a lot of people were killed in Joplin, Missouri. As I understand, looking at things here, there's another tornado cell heading for Missouri. We're not out of the problem with the weather. So we can look at this first item up on the list here, the rapture, and we could say, okay, it didn't happen exactly the way, but it did start off with the first event that he said would start it off. So maybe we now are into that time, and the next 5 months we need to pay attention. Now, second on the list is the FEMA NLE exercise. That ended. They've prepared a lot of people for earthquakes. The area, the Mississippi, is still flooded. Water has not automatically disappeared just because this day came and went. The water is still there, still putting pressure on the fault line. There are still concerns. Now there are new concerns that along the Mississippi, some of the nuclear plants that are there are going to be threatened. Which brings us down into point 5, false flag concerning bin Laden's death lie, nukes, blame Pakistan or China. Well, Pakistan and China isn't part of what I just said, but the nukes are. And as you can see, if you paid attention to the news, there was an attack that took place in Pakistan over this weekend. There's already a president talking about wanting to go into attack and fight them if they find any militants there. So there's something ready to go, something ready to blow in that area. Comet Elenin's still out there. That hasn't gone by. It's still going to be moving around and passing around in the fall. All of these things, the Comet Elenin, is taking place during the time frame that Howard Camping originally discussed. And of course, the UFOs, well, we haven't really heard any more about UFO attacks since the Transformers last week, but we are still getting a lot more readings and information out there about HARP taking place and UFO sightings that are out there. And of course, you just heard the article about UFOs and aliens attacking. So, all this being said, my friends, there's still a lot going on. And things may be happening in ways a little different than what you may have thought, but nonetheless, they are still happening. Alright, that's my spiel for the moment here. I've got a caller. I believe this is our very own Dirk Bradshaw who's on the line here, hand up, ready to go. Let's see what Dirk has to say today. Dirk, hello, how are you?
I'm doing well there, Joshua Poet. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. What's going on today?
Oh, nothing much. Just calling in on the subjects of the day and telling you about the word on the street.
What's the word on the street?
These subjects you're talking about. Well, when we talk about street, I'm not sure if every listener knows who Joshua Poet and Dirk Bradshaw really are. If you look down...
Hello. Alright, I think you lost you. Well, I see he's still there, but I don't hear nothing. Let me try this again here. Dirk? Nope, I apparently lost him. Alright, Dirk will call back in a moment, I'm sure, and continue his train of thought. Let me jump over here and just show you a few things that are in the news while we're waiting. If you are online this moment or any other times, and you go to YouTube, check out this guy named Dutch Sinse. D-U-T-C-H-S-I-N-S-E. Has a lot of information there. He's been on top of the weather, giving us warnings. He's been pretty right on about stuff. Now he's talking about another tornado cell heading towards Joplin, Missouri. All right, looks like we got Dirk back. Dirk, are you there? All right, let's round two.
Round two. You can hear me now.
I can hear you now, yes. So what's going on, Dirk?
So what I was saying about... Well, we were talking about the camping and the rapture.
Right.
And I think what a lot of people don't realize is that there's a lot of quote-unquote undocumented human beings or undocumented aliens that aren't here, aren't legitimately here. And so when we add the world population, they are excluded from the world population. And I think what might have happened, and what I'm hearing on the street with our brotherhood, as I might refer to them, is that possibly camping is able to break into transmissions. And these transmissions were for other life forms here on Earth to be prepared to leave. And whatever reason they're leaving, that's fine. And maybe the 200 million might possibly be some of these undocumented aliens here on Earth. And it was sort of a rapture for sure, but not necessarily for the human race, and not necessarily for every alien race that's walking on Earth right this very second. Anyways, that's the word on the street that I've been
All right.
hearing about the camping and rapture. And then on as far as the FEMA and again on the word on the street, the FEMA and Bin Laden, this is stuff that we're getting from our webpage, Cosmic News Network, and a lot of emails that we're getting. A lot of people, what they're thinking is that this is just nothing more than wag the dog.
Right.
In the FEMA exercise, and not saying that those things don't exist, but more of a wag the dog for the three simultaneous wars that are going on right now that really Obama wants us to ignore, because you see, if you remember, Bush was the war mongrel, whatever it is. He was the guy that we know for the Iraq War, but now we've got literally three wars going on, and we don't talk about it.
Right.
We don't talk about what's going on in Libya. We're just helping out there. But don't forget, Vietnam was always and never been considered a war legitimately on paper. It's always just been sort of a disturbance that we went over, a police action that we were helping out in. And that's
Right.
sort of what we're saying about both Libya and but let's not forget, these are wars.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants us to just forget about those things by distracting us with these kind of exercises, because he knows now the world is opening. They are realizing things within our government. So he's using that as a ploy to distract us, this alternative media, from reporting on it. And we don't fall for this stuff. That's why you listen to us, is because we're always ahead of the game on that. But that's what we're hearing as far as like our listeners and our producers have compiled, that possibly these are all just, of course, being used as wag the dog techniques. But even I even see this Donald Trump, for that 10 seconds that he jumped in, and now he's jumped out saying I have no interest. I mean, what was the agenda there?
Well,
What was his agenda?
there is an article up here at InfoWars talking about it, and it just says in the first sentence, as he appears to release shocking new evidence and name the people who he claims are behind the forgery of Barack Obama's long-form birth certificate, author Jerome Corsi sensationally accused short-lived Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump of working with Obama to neutralize the birther controversy. So there's a whole article there at
We've
InfoWars.
been talking about that
So
for months. The moment, I'm sorry.
no, that's exactly, that was it. That was my point.
We've been talking about that for months. None of us fell for Trump. We report on it, but we always had it with some sort of tempered, reality, which is this.
Now getting into the NLE, you brought that up, and nothing did go off during the time they were there, thank God. But they still are flooded, and water is still putting pressure on the fault line. They still are having problems. They had a series of tornadoes last night that hit in Joplin, Missouri, and up in Minnesota, and there's more tornado activity heading that way. We also had the large volcano in Iceland that blew up over this past weekend, which is going, and there was another volcano, I believe, in Japan. So there are a lot of events out there that definitely need to be taken into account.
But even these false events are precursors to when they're going to need to use. We know that the government could put a finger on a button, and that fault will open up, and 22 million people dead. You see what I'm saying? And they have that in their hands. What they're doing is they're building up anticipation for that. So when it happens, it doesn't seem like, oh my gosh, what is this? It's we're here, we're prepared. You need your
Right.
government. Look how prepared we were for this. And they're just waiting for some reason to use it. There'll be something else that they need to distract us from, and they'll push the button and send a mild earthquake. Why we need our government, who was prepared years ago, 2-3 years ago, with their FEMA exercise to come rescue us. But never forget that they have their pulse. That's the whole agenda of government, is to inflict us with government. That's their whole job. They need to make sure that we all need them, or they have no job.
Right.
And if it wasn't for things like FEMA, prepared for this earthquake that they most likely are going to set anytime they want, or anywhere in the world that they want. They don't necessarily have to even do it there. It's just, and most importantly, we don't fall for it here. The people who listen to this show, people who work here, they don't fall for stuff like that.
Well, we just have to pay attention, because you know, they are preparing for something, and these things are, you know, going on. I mean, there's thousands of people without homes right now in the Midwest, and that's for real. And, you know, there's 24 people killed last night in Joplin, Missouri. That was for real. So, you know, they are doing things and they are messing with the weather, and we need to, you know, not get caught into all the lies and nonsense, but be aware of the truth of what they are doing out there.
That's it.
That is it.
Exactly it.
All
Well,
right.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
I just wanted to. Oh, I also wanted to chime in on one last thing before
Sure.
I go, and that is aliens aren't as smart as people make them out to be. I am a complete dullard. You know how I got here to Earth. I didn't build the machine that got me here. Yes, there are some smart things out there. I don't know how they work. I just, you know, it's almost like a stereotype that aliens are like these mega minds who can move things with their. I'm saying it from a point of view of a gray. I'm not going to lie. I am not the brightest bulb in the block. You know what I'm saying?
I gotcha.
That's all.
All right.
I wanted to chime in on that from my own perspective.
Very good.
One not very smart alien.
All right.
Hey there, Joshua.
Very good, Dirk.
I will talk to you soon.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks. All right. Dirk Bradshaw, thank you very much. So let me bring your attention in the last few minutes we have here to some things you should check out. Godlike Productions is a website. They have a good forum there. You can go stay on top, you know, of information. Now, with any of these websites, you got to take them all with a grain of salt. You want to read through what's there, but you don't want to get caught up in people's emotions, because during these times, that's what gets people caught up, their emotions. They see a situation, they think about it, and then they hear about it more and more, and their emotions build up, and in their emotions, that's when they start taking some sort of actions. And if they're not thinking clearly, the actions are actions that can be more harmful to them than good. So, with all of these, use your common sense. Read through. Look at a number of them. See if it makes sense. See if the stories you're reading are just someone's fear that they're expressing, or if there can be any proof to any of the information that is being given. Here, if you go to Godlike Productions, it talks about the volcano eruption that's taking place, talks about what's going on in Joplin, Missouri, more information about the Taliban, what's going on with Pakistan, and you know, it's a nice, good forum. There's a number of forums out there that are really good. This is one of them. There's this website here called the Intel Hub, theintelhub.com. And there's an article there, 9/11, Did Someone Forget About the Demolition Company? By Shepard Ambellas and Alex Thomas. It says, once one has come to terms with the possibility that 9/11 was an inside job, one must face the very important question. What demolition company would ever be capable of demoing such structures? Structures such as WTC Towers 1 and 2 and WTC Building 7. Well, let's take a closer look into a demolition firm known as Controlled Demolition, INC. CDI's website states the following about their company. A 2,000-ton skyscraper collapses like a house of cards, crumbling in on itself. A waterfall of well-fractured steel and concrete debris. It lasts only seconds, and buildings within a few meters stand untouched. The very essence of Controlled Demolition, Inc. is in our name, Control. Well, does that description provide in their website remind you of anything? And I believe it was Controlled Demolition that was the ones that cleaned up all of the wreckage from 9/11. Doesn't that give you a clue that they were there cleaning it up? Controlled Demolition seems to be quite obvious, and something that has been pointed out for quite some time, but it has been overlooked. So it's good to be reminded of such information. Okay, so where does that bring us? Well, that brings us just about to the end of this show. How about if we do this? How about if we just take a few moments here and let's just kind of focus ourselves a bit. It's the beginning of a new week. Beginning of a new week, it's the beginning of a new time. It's an opportunity for us to go out there and really kind of exercise our patience, exercise our humanity, exercise our love in the world. So let's just imagine it's the beginning of a new week. Just take a moment, my friends. Think about your week. Think about where you are right now and think about where you want to be at the end of this week. Regardless of the circumstances going on in life, think about where you want to be. Think about how you might get there over the course of this week. And then think about the obstacles that might get in your way along your journey. And as you think of those obstacles, imagine yourself walking down the path, stepping over the obstacles, walking around them, continuing to move forward until you reach that end destination that you have planned for yourself. And as you get there, imagine yourself standing at this point, this destination. Turn and look back at where you came from and just imagine yourself back at the starting point that we are right now, knowing that mentally, by projecting yourself ahead, all that's required is for you to physically catch up with yourself over the course of this week. I want you to imagine sending love around the planet right now to everyone. Even if you can't imagine who they are, just send love. Imagine it going around to all the countries. And imagine that right now, thousands and thousands of others who are listening and imagining love or sending love your way. And then take that love and focus that love and send it down into the earth to bring healing to the planet. And now let's bring our energy and tension back to your heart space. And let's just think good thoughts for the world, my friends. Let's think about how we can make things better. Let's think about how we can make things happier, healthier. We can make a change, my friends. It's all upon our shoulders to do so. We can make a change by simply changing the way that we think. So think good thoughts as you bring your energy and attention now back to the present moment. Let's do so on the count of 5. 5, coming back to the present moment, filled with confidence. 4, coming back to the present moment, filled with faith. 3, coming back to the present moment, strengthened by the experiences of the past. 2, coming back to the present moment, aware of who you are and what needs to be done. And 1, coming back to the present moment, happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. And that ends our little prayer meditation for today. That should get you ready to go for today. As you go out into the world, my friends, just know that there are a lot of things going on. Some things we can change, some things we can't. But we all have the ability to affect the way that we look at things. We all have the ability of bonding together and making this a better world. So even though there are challenges going on that we are aware of, earth changes, we can still move with the earth changes and be in synchronicity with them and be in the place where we need to be when these things take place. We can do things to protect ourselves from all of the negative influences of the dark energies on this planet simply by surrounding yourself with light and then strengthening that light protection each and every day. We can make a difference. All the books, the revelations, the prophecies, they all end with the good guys winning. So know that we are the good guys, and that winning time is just ahead of us, because the game has begun and we are in the midst of all of these events that are taking place and will continue to play themselves out each and every day of our lives. So have faith, my friends, be strong, and everything's going to work itself out wonderfully. You shall see in the end, you shall see. You just need to go through. This is a big test. Think of it that way. Alright? For Dirk Bradshaw, my name's Josh Poet. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Till then, you have a great day. Peace. I'm out of here. See ya.